India at this time in the 16th century was still a large, fragmented, distracted region with thick, untouched forests, teeming with tigers and snakes who very frequently moved into villages as well. Life was not easy. I know we like to imagine our past as a pastoral idyll, but it wasn't like that. Maybe in really ancient times, but not really in the medieval times. The Portuguese were at this time already in India, and they were going quite strong in the western coast of India. They had taken over the fortified settlements from the Deccan Sultans, and they held good control over Goa, Bombay, Daman, Diu. In fact, their fleet controlled the mercantile traffic of the Arabian Sea and the Persian Gulf. No other European power had gained any footing on the soil of India by this time. In fact, the Portuguese were so powerful that Akbar had to take their permission before any ships from the Mughal Empire departed for the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca. In fact, it's from the Jesuit reports of this time that we get a good physical description of Akbar in his youth as a fine-looking, broad-shouldered man, but bandy-legged, well-suited for horsemanship, and of a dark rather than fair complexion. His eyes are large and black, but with narrow openings, like those of a Tartar or Chinaman. He has a broad, open forehead, and his nose, except for a slight lump in the center, is straight. The nostrils are large, and on the left one there is a small wart. Like the Turks, he shaves his beard, but he wears a small, neatly trimmed mustache. In the 1560s, another very important thing happened in Akbar's life. In 1562, it was a cold January night, Akbar was hunting in the lands around Agra. He was somewhere in a village between Ajmer and Sikri when he came upon Qawwals, who were singing praises of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. Akbar was so enamored by the stories that he decided to visit the miraculous man and his shrine that very night. So he ordered his harem to come along and meet him on the way to the holy man. On the way, he received a request of Raja Bharmal for an audience. Raja Bharmal was a respected ally of the Mughals, so they met at Sanganer. Now, it's important to understand how the Rajputs were organized at this time. In the 16th century, Rajput kingdoms were mostly organized as clans like Rathors, Chauhans, Sisodias, Kachwahas, and not one area which was ruled over by one entity. And it had been so ever since the defeat of Prithviraj Chauhan by Muhammad Ghori in 1192. No one had been able to take over them, and they'd been largely independent, but they were mostly like small warring principalities. Kachwahas of Amer were one such. There was a dispute over the seat of Amer between Raja Bharmal and his brother Puranmal, who had somehow managed the support of the Mughal governor Mirza Sharafuddin Hussain. Bharmal, in order to remove Puranmal from the seat, sought Akbar's help by offering him his daughter in marriage. Now, contrary to popular belief, this wasn't the first example of Hindu-Muslim marriage in Indian history. The Ghoris and Tughlaqs before the Mughals did marry Hindu women. Rao Maldeo of Marwar married one of his daughters to Sultan Mahmud of Gujarat and another to Islam Shah Sur. And contrary to another popular belief, Bharmal's daughter, Harkabai, wasn't the only Hindu woman Akbar ever married. He also married the niece of Kalyanmal Rai of Bikaner, daughter of Rawal Har Rai of Jaisalmer, and the princess of Dungarpur. And obviously, in addition, Akbar had many more Muslim wives too. However, marital alliances with Hindus proved to be an awesome administrative and political strategy, because by marrying into the Kachwahas, Akbar won the lifetime loyalty of the Rajputs. The Rajputs became his strongest allies. Rajput soldiers and generals fought for the Mughal army. Marrying with Hindus also created another remarkable highlight of Akbar's reign: religious tolerance. The jizya tax was abolished, not as a direct result of the marriage, but the open-mindedness that comes with interacting with others who may not be like you. This also led to the famed religious gatherings where Akbar invited Hindus and Muslim clerics, Jains, Buddhists, Jesuits to discuss God, spirituality, and the right way of living, leading to ultimately two things. One, his disillusion with the purity of holy men. And second, Sulah-e-Kul, his answer to the best way a multicultural society like India can harmoniously live together. Sadly, most people still don't get it. In addition to abolishing the jizya tax on Hindus, Akbar ended slavery. He discouraged the abominable practices of sati and johar. He raised the minimum marriageable age of boys and girls. With Bharmal's daughter, Akbar had 2 sons, Hassan and Hussein, but both of them died soon. Ultimately, Akbar had 3 sons, Salim, Murad and Danial, all 3 of them hopeless alcoholics and opium addicts. Murad and Danial died before Akbar because of alcohol and opium overdoses. Salim, perhaps because of his robust build, survived, and when Salim succeeded his father to the throne, he was called Jahangir. Understandably difficult to fill someone like Akbar's shoes, Jahangir never managed to be what his father was. In fact, very few ever since have. In 1605, Akbar died, and he is buried in Agra. The lengthier detailed version of this biography of Akbar's would be on our podcast, Historia Maxima. Hope you enjoyed. You can support our work on Patreon, link in the description. Do click like and subscribe. Share your opinions in the comments below, and I'll see you next Monday.